On a cold winter morning, March 1, 2026, a brief announcement sent a seismic shock through global agricultural markets. China, after a long and painful standoff, agreed to slash its formidable tariffs on Canadian canola seed. The duties, which had soared to a crippling level of nearly 85%, were set to plummet to a manageable 15%. This single move unlocked a market estimated to be worth around $4 billion annually, a figure representing a vital lifeline for thousands of Canadian farmers. The news landed not with a loud bang, but with the quiet, profound force of a dam breaking after years of pressure. It was a deal that would reshape trade flows and challenge diplomatic assumptions. The immediate effects were palpable, rippling from the trading floors of Winnipeg to the quiet farmhouses scattered across the Canadian prairies. The price of canola, which had been languishing under the weight of market uncertainty, surged on the news. Traders and analysts who had written off the Chinese market began hastily redrawing their forecasts for the year ahead. As cited by Al Jazeera, the agreement was poised to unlock nearly $3 billion in export orders almost immediately, breathing life back into a sector that had been struggling for air. The deal was more than just numbers on a page. It was a signal that business, after a long and bitter pause, was ready to resume. For Canada, the deal represented a significant diplomatic and economic victory, achieved through a strategy that diverged sharply from that of its closest ally, the United States. While Washington favored public confrontation and broad economic pressure, Ottawa opted for quiet, persistent negotiation. The result was a practical solution to a pressing domestic problem. Within days of the preliminary agreement announced on January 16, 2026, the wheels of commerce began to turn. Global news reported that a Chinese importer had already placed an order for 60,000 metric tons of canola seed. Before the deal brought relief, there was a period of deep and gnawing anxiety on Canada's farms. The high tariffs and regulatory barriers imposed by China created a physical and financial bottleneck that squeezed the life out of many family operations. Grain bins filled to the brim with unsold canola, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba. Farmers who had invested heavily in planting and harvesting the crop watched as their product sat idle, a tangible symbol of lost income and mounting debt. Rick White explained bluntly, "Farmers had all this production in their bins and the values were tumbling. Oversupply devastated prices. The market was flooded with one major buyer gone. Canola's value deteriorated. The crop in a farmer's bin was worth less each day. Direct hit to family balance sheets, tractor loans, next year's seed mortgages, groceries. The stress was immense." Faced with a deepening crisis on the prairies, the Canadian government in Ottawa chose a path of quiet, focused diplomacy. Instead of engaging in loud public confrontations or retaliatory measures, federal officials opened discreet channels with counterparts in Beijing. Provincial officials opened discreet channels with counterparts in Beijing. The strategy was deliberate: avoid the political theater and concentrate on finding a technical, practical solution. The negotiations were not about winning a public relations battle, they were about getting canola moving again. This approach allowed both sides to discuss sensitive issues without the pressure of media scrutiny, creating space for compromise away from the public eye. The resulting agreement was a model of targeted negotiation. It went beyond a simple tariff reduction. According to the Canola Council of Canada, the deal struck on January 16, 2026, included several key components. First, it set a clear timeline for the tariff on canola seed to be reduced to 15% by March 1, 2026. Second, it secured removal of the 100% tariffs on Canadian canola meal, effective March 1. This dual approach ensured the entire canola value chain would benefit: raw seed, processed meal. Furthermore, the talks tackled the non-tariff barriers that had also blocked trade. These often took the form of phytosanitary rules, plant health, pests. China had previously cited pest concerns as a reason for restricting imports. The Canadian negotiators worked to establish clear, science-based protocols that would satisfy Chinese regulators. The announcement of Canada's canola deal with China was met with a sense of surprise in Washington, D.C. For years, the United States had pursued a strategy of confrontation with Beijing. It used public tariffs, sanctions, strong rhetoric. American policy aimed to build a united front with allies, to exert maximum pressure on China. Canada's decision to independently negotiate a major trade agreement appeared to sidestep that coordinated approach. Ottawa's move was pragmatic, not defiant. It highlighted a fundamental strategic difference between the neighbors. The contrast in tactics could not have been more clear. The American approach was loud and broad, designed to force systemic changes in China's economy. It involved sweeping tariffs across hundreds of billions of dollars of goods, aiming to punish and coerce. Canada pursued diplomatic surgery. Negotiators focused on one critical issue, canola access, and worked quietly behind the scenes. They did not lecture or threaten. They identified a specific problem and methodically worked with Chinese counterparts to find a mutually agreeable solution. Targeted engagement yielded results where broad confrontation had not. From Washington's view, Canada's deal looked like a crack in the Western alliance's unified front. A core U.S. tenet: allies should stand together, even absorb economic pain, for long-term geopolitical goals. By striking its own deal, Canada signaled domestic economic needs can trump lockstep alignment. That raised uncomfortable questions about alliance reliability when partners' economic interests diverge. It reminded viewers that sovereignty includes protecting national prosperity. For the farmers on the ground, the news of the deal was not about geopolitics. It was about survival. The reaction was a powerful mix of relief joy, a lingering sense of caution born from years of uncertainty. Andre Harp, chair of the Alberta Canola Producers, captured the mood perfectly. He said he was awake at 3 a.m, checking the announcement, watching prices climb. The immediate market impact was the first sign the long winter of trade disruption was finally over. For farmers like Harp, the agreement was simply great news. The emotional weight of the trade dispute had been immense. Constant worry over falling prices, overflowing storage, inability to plan for the future had taken a heavy toll on farming families. Harp called the period absolutely terrible, a sentiment echoed across the prairies. The deal lifted that weight. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe celebrated it as a huge win for his province and the Canadian economy. He called it one of the strongest agreements he has seen in his time. It reflected the profound importance of the canola industry to the region. Victory was shared by industry leaders working behind the scenes. Dean Roberts, chair of Sask Oilseeds, called the tariff reduction a significant win for farmers and the whole value chain. Benefits extended beyond the farm gate to processors, transporters, exporters. The Canada-China canola deal resonates far beyond the agricultural sector, offering a glimpse into a shifting global order. At its core, the agreement is a powerful statement about national autonomy in an era of great power competition. By pursuing and securing a deal independently, Canada demonstrated that middle powers are not simply pawns in a larger game between the United States and China. They possess the agency to act in their own economic self-interest, even when it diverges from the preferred strategy of a dominant ally. This move challenges the notion of rigid, monolithic alliances and suggests a more fluid, transactional future for international diplomacy. This event forces a re-evaluation of how alliances function in the 21st century. Traditionally, Western allies have been expected to present a united front, particularly concerning China. However, the canola deal illustrates that when a core domestic industry faces an existential threat, a nation's government may prioritize economic relief over ideological alignment. For the United States, this serves as a critical lesson: influence within an alliance cannot be taken for granted. To maintain unity, a leading power must demonstrate that the collective strategy also serves the tangible, immediate interests of its partners. If it doesn't, partners may seek their own solutions. The ripple effects of Canada's move could be significant. Other countries will have watched Ottawa's success closely: Australia, New Zealand, the European Union. So, who are the clear winners of this quiet but consequential deal? First and foremost, the victory belongs to the Canadian canola farmers. They see their overflowing bins begin to empty, their prices recover, a cloud of financial uncertainty lift. The relief is immediate and tangible, restoring stability to their livelihoods and communities. The wider Canadian economy also wins billions in export revenue begin to flow again, supporting jobs across the agricultural supply chain. For Canada, the deal is a win for pragmatic, independent foreign policy. It can navigate between two global giants to protect its people. The lessons are profound. In an interconnected world, domestic economic pain can drive foreign policy. Abstract geopolitical strategies may lose appeal when people face losing farms and businesses. The Canola deal shows the choice is not pro-US or pro-China, but pro-national interest. Effective diplomacy is often unglamorous, patient, technical work to find common ground, not grand ideological battles with no immediate solutions. This could mark a turning point in allied diplomacy. Alliances may become more flexible and transactional. Partners may coordinate on security and values. The old single power model may give way to a multipolar arrangement, middle powers having more room to maneuver. That makes the international environment more complex and less predictable. Is this an isolated incident, born of crisis, or the blueprint for a new era? Nations must choose between lockstep solidarity or independent, agile diplomacy. Back on the prairies, the trucks are rolling. The harvest has found its market. But in world capitals, the debate has only just begun. What comes next will define alliances and the shape of global trade for years to come. What do you think? Smart move by Canada or risky independence? Drop your thoughts below, like if this shocked you, subscribe for more hidden trade stories, and hit the bell. Thanks for watching. See you next time.